Chapter 5. Smells Like Teen Spirit. "Bonjour! Nice of you to finally join us, Miss Draper," bellowed a voice from the front of the class. "Take a seat and open your mind to infinite possibilities." Chloe walked straight to the back of the class, taking a seat on the tables positioned in a large backwards L shape. A square group of 4 tables stood in the centre of the room, and to her left was a row of 3 tables, where the popular kids sat. Chloe was happy that no one had taken her seat at the back. If you had the unfortunate pleasure of sitting on the square table in the middle, you were guaranteed to be asked questions such as, "How does this make you feel?" by the art teacher, Miss Tilly Cockleton. Chloe pulled out all the necessary things needed for this class, including her sketchpad, which was covered in pictures of American teen pop sensation Ned Copeland. She was infatuated with the chart-topping adolescent. She would put his debut album on repeat whenever she got home. He was also the password to her social network site, which Hunter had managed to successfully hack. The art teacher, a short stout woman, was wearing a black beret and dark brown cardigan. Her puffy red cheeks and thick-rimmed round glasses made her face look like a giant ladybird. Her long flowing dress incorporated numerous shades of blues, greens and purples, all of which were contained in a floral print pattern, and wrapped together using a lime green belt. Miss Cockleton, originally from the northwest of England, had ventured down south many years ago on her way to London to break into the art world in the hope to boost her career. On her pilgrimage of paint, she stopped off in the small town and fell in love with the surroundings. When she discovered the local school was looking for an art teacher, she swapped the potential years of becoming a struggling artist for a regular income and a chance to inspire future generations. With a quirky nature, she had a bit of a habit of using the odd French word when appropriate. She wasn't French and had never been to France, but had always wanted to visit, and she just threw in the cultural language for extra creative measure. At 65 years old, this was going to be the last school term she would teach before her retirement. She had never been married or had children. She spent most of her time travelling around the UK with friends, immersing herself in the country's culture. She sauntered around the square formation of tables in the middle. Then, after a few laps, she geared up to pose one of her "no answer is wrong" type of questions. The children in the centre were sat, hoping that they weren't going to be asked, but to their amazement, Miss Cockleton deviated from her usual path of interrogation and made her way over to the cool kids table to her right. As she approached the set of 3 tables, the 6 children looked as though they were in a line-up. 5 faces were looking ahead at the art teacher, while one sat, not paying any attention. So, like most educators, she decided to pick on the daydreamer. With the daydreamer's gaze focused directly towards Hunter Montero, she was shocked to find Miss Cockleton standing in front of her. "How does this picture make you feel?" Miss Cockleton demanded to know. I don't know. Kind of yellow," the young girl replied, in an apathetic voice. "Well, if you're too distracted to appreciate the oil canvases of the greats, I guess you will have to be moved." And as she spoke, Miss Cockleton scanned the classroom to find the ideal spot to relocate the artistically stunted child. "Ah, next class I'll swap you with Miss Draper. Then you'll be directly in my line of sight." Hunter and Chloe's head turned, and their eyes darted over to meet each other, and in unison both thought, "Not on your life." Olivia Davenport, or Liv to her friends, pouted and shot her teacher a look of insolence. There was a reason why she sat at this table and not at the others, because of who she was. Art lessons for Olivia were a complete waste of her time. This subject bored her to tears and interfered with her ever-expanding intellect. At the age of 14, it had already been suggested that she move up a year, and even the nearby private school had approached her parents, hoping to enroll their daughter without any school fees. But Olivia had declined all such offers because she was happy where she was. Her test scores were incredible. Intellectual establishments, such as Mensa, had asked her to join. She was on many of the top universities' watch lists. Most of the academic trophies and framed certificates in the reception were hers. The only thing that stopped her from approaching Mr. Rowland, the headmaster, to excuse her from this self-expressed, pointless lesson, was the fact she got to spend an hour sat next to Hunter, her boyfriend. Spending most of her time in art class brushing her long blonde hair and checking her appearance in her small compact mirror. Olivia was considered to be the best-looking girl in Year 10, with only one real possible threat to her crown. Her rich brown eyes were intense, and every guy in school looked in hope that they would shine in their direction. With brains as well as beauty, she knew her possibilities for the future were certain to be full of exciting opportunities, but if exiled by moving up a year or transferred, she feared her boyfriend would replace her, and she would be powerless to stop him. Although she was book smart, her heart was immature, and it told her that she was in love. Her favourite accessory was Hunter, and she liked to wear him on her arm, and she wasn't going anywhere without him. With the class's flow of inspiration now disrupted by Olivia Davenport, Miss Cockleton tried to get the pupils' minds back to speculating on the feelings behind the painting. For a brief moment, she disappeared through the far right-hand door in her office. The door on the far left led to a room that housed all the school art supplies. It contained a drying rack and all sizes and colours of paper and card. It also housed the school's ceramic kiln, which hadn't worked in years, and according to Miss Cockleton, was an accident waiting to happen. She had been pursuing this matter for countless years. The first time she realised it wasn't working properly, she was told that it would be fine and to keep using it. The day that it overheated and blew the fuse box, she was told that ceramics would have to be cancelled. It didn't matter how hard she begged, there was never enough money to get it fixed or replaced. "Great, now look what you've done," the girl to the left of Olivia said, while Miss Cockleton was in her office. Then a waft of incense drifted out from the art teacher's office. Chloe glanced around the room. Making sure that no one was looking, she reached into her bag and pulled out a couple of strawberry shoelaces, and then crammed them into her mouth. Being so unpopular had its advantages. People rarely paid her any attention, unless they wanted someone to pick on. However, on this occasion, she was caught red-handed by Mason, who was sat halfway down on the tables to the right. Mason mouthed the words, "Are you okay?" "Leave me alone," she mouthed back, sneaking a few more laces into her mouth. Mason was annoyed that his offer for help was rejected, but keeping his promise to his mum, he would make an effort to try again later. As he started to get bored, he began to fiddle with his metal pencil case. He looked over his shoulder, out of the window to the school field. He leaned back in his chair, trying to get a glimpse of what the teacher was doing, hidden from view in her office. Mason looked directly ahead, and his eyes locked with his least favourite person in the world, Hunter Montero. The staring contest would happen by accident, about 3 times an art lesson, both looking up at the same time, or when they were sketching something on the centre tables for a life-drawing exercise. The pair ended up paying no attention to the bowl of fruit, but just concentrating on who would give in and look away first. Chloe often watched them pulling faces and making air-stabbing motions with their pencils. She always hoped Mason would win, and she couldn't help but think whatever incident occurred to make 2 people hate each other so much must have been earth-shatteringly big. Knowledge of the feud had spread throughout the school, with the majority coming down on Hunter's side. She had recently overheard someone say, "Apparently Mason stole Hector Montero's sports car and ran Hunter over with it when he tried to stop him." Another pupil said, "The pair were both black belts in karate, and during a championship fight, Mason lost and dishonoured himself by going crazy, attacking Hunter with a baseball bat." Chloe knew both boys were only 10 at the time, and these stories did not have an element of truth to them. So what really did happen the day of the feud? As the plume of incense hit Mason's table first, his eyes welled up with tears, and he had to close them to wipe them dry. He was not best pleased to have to admit defeat to Hunter in the stare-off, due to external circumstances. Hunter clutched his hands together and shook them either side in a celebratory manner, which just fueled Mason's anger. Miss Cockleton re-emerged from her shoebox office, clinking finger cymbals together and chanting what most kids thought was some sort of Buddhist meditation prayer. She believed that this Zen-like process would calm the students and help them focus. When she felt confident that she had removed all of Olivia's negative energy, she pointed to the wall behind Hunter and the rest of the other popular pupils. "Please take a bow, Mademoiselle Newman," Tilly Cockleton requested. The girl who was sat next to Olivia stood up and did a small curtsy. "Thank you," she gushed. On the wall was an enormous banner, made of a silvery shiny material, with big red letters painted onto it. It read, "Go Darwin Destroyers, win, win, win," and there was even a picture of a shark swimming. This banner had taken Abigail 2 weeks of lunch breaks. Even the slightest breeze made the whole banner shimmer. It rippled, reflecting light around the room, especially when the door closed, which would alert Miss Cockleton to any tardy stragglers, just like Chloe had been caught this morning. Abigail stood there, her long curly, chestnut brown hair and perfect smile, posing like she did, when she had modelled for a small clothing catalogue. She had just been discovered by a local modelling agency, and due to her rapid success, was now known as the model at school. Many people thought she looked very plain next to Olivia, but she was photogenic and a complete natural in front of the camera. She was getting a lot of interest from potential clients, and even more from the boys at school, who had started to see her in a different light. From a poor family with newly unemployed parents, she now had the wardrobe the envy of all the girls at school, and could help her struggling family by paying some of the bills. Her look was flawless, except for one genetic error, heterochromia, resulting in one eye being a different colour from the other, which she wore a contact lens during photo shoots to correct. She continued her speech, thanking Miss Cockleton for supplying the paints and fabric, and hoped the banner would help the football team win the inter-school match. Lastly, she thanked Hunter for the inspiration of the shark, and then everyone clapped. Hunter then stood up, taking all the credit. Mason clapped half-heartedly, hardly producing any sound from his hands. Miss Cockleton intervened, making the class take notice of the creative atmosphere. She breathed deeply and exhaled. "Smells like teen spirit," she declared, before wheezing and coughing drowned her out. "No, miss, I think it's the joss sticks," Chloe gasped with her hands over her nose and mouth. "Oh, I'm so sorry, my dear." Tilly Cockleton waddled over as fast as she could to open a window, and then pushed Chloe's head outside. "Looks like the inspirationally creative mood was too much for you," she said. Chloe tried to catch her breath as the rain soaked her wavy hair, making it even more curly. Hearing the banter from behind, her mood sunk even lower. "Why do all the bad things keep happening to me?" she muttered to herself. The 6 children on the left side of the room laughed at Chloe. "Drippy Draper doesn't get wet, but only bigger," Hunter announced. As the other 5 kids laughed at Hunter's remark, Olivia scanned Abigail and made a few observations. No one really knew why Olivia and Abigail were best friends. They were total opposites. They had no real common interests, but as the age-old saying goes, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Abigail was the one girl who could rival Olivia's beauty, but certainly not her intelligence. She was convinced that Abigail was trying to make a move on her beloved Hunter, and by being her best friend, could keep a watchful eye on her at all times. She couldn't do this if she gave up art class. When the class had quietened down and Chloe, red with embarrassment and soaked to the skin, had returned to her seat, Miss Cockleton restarted the lesson. "Art and nature go hand in hand." She started to pace around the room, making eye contact with each student as she went. "You use art every day, in your life, without even knowing it. You shape your hair in a style, style is fashion, and fashion is art." As the projector roared back into life, pictures appeared on the screen, and Miss Cockleton continued. "Nature inspires all artists. It is all around, and it will influence you in one way or another. It can be difficult and brutal, as well as beautiful." She paused on one slide for a long time, telling the class how artist Andy Goldsworthy often used his bare hands and teeth to really connect with his work. "Who can give me the name of another artist who is heavily influenced by nature? Come on, people," she pleaded, looking for a show of hands. She randomly pointed, and Hunter was singled out. Georgia O'Keeffe," he blurted out, thinking fast on his feet. He had no idea where he had plucked the name from. Miss Cockleton raised her hands up to the ceiling. "Très bon! Magnifique choice!" Hunter was shocked that his guess was right, but didn't let on as the 2 girls were so impressed. "Hunter, you are showing your artistic soul. You have so many layers. Maybe I shouldn't separate Miss Davenport from you after all. Perhaps some of your appreciation for art will rub off," Miss Cockleton suggested. She then flicked rapidly through the slides until she came across some of Georgia O'Keeffe's pieces. Caught up in a whirlwind of excitement, she relayed her knowledge of the artist. She explained that people hardly ever took the time to look at something as small and insignificant as a flower, failing to appreciate its beauty. So the artist would take what she saw and paint it so big that people would have to stop and take notice. They would see how she saw the world. The bell rang, signalling the end of class. "For homework, I want you to draw or paint something that you think is truly beautiful," Miss Cockleton affirmed. Mason got up from his chair. "Looks like Hunter's doing a self-portrait again," Mason joked on his way past Chloe. She let out a little giggle, followed by a mouse-like sneeze. As the class filtered out, Miss Cockleton informed them that next lesson they were going to create a masterpiece with only things that nature provided, nothing man-made. "Now, au revoir!" "Are you okay, my dear?" Miss Cockleton asked Chloe as she tried to leave. "You look like you haven't had a wink of sleep. If you need help on relaxation techniques or a cup of chamomile tea, you must come and seek me out." Chloe thanked her, but before she could escape to her next class, Mason collared her again. "Your mum asked my mum if I would look after you. But you know this already," Mason blurted out as Chloe tried to leave again. "Just because we don't hang out anymore doesn't mean I've stopped being your friend. You can tell me, and I won't say a word to our parents. And you must know I do care what happens to you." Chloe looked as if she was going to cry. "I'm too scared to go to sleep," she whispered, choking up. She dashed into the classroom opposite. Mason couldn't believe that Chloe was in such a bad state of mind. He felt like his bedtime howling was nothing in comparison. He knew he had to help. But how?